Okay guys, we've got a 2010 Chevrolet Impala that we're going to put a rack and pinion in. It has a blown seal, so whenever you turn stop to stop, it pushes fluid out. So we're going to get started. First thing I want to do is put this thing up on jack stands and get the wheels off. So I'm not going to film that because obviously you guys are going to be able to do that. And then we'll press on with the replacement of the rack and pinion. Guys, I got the car jacked up. Got jack stands right back here on the subframe. And you do want to make sure your steering wheel is locked in the center. Next step I'm going to do, I'm going to break these tie rod nuts loose. Take the tie rod bolt out here. Count how many threads each one of these take. I'm going to write down that number here on the hub probably, or up here on the frame. But I also think what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure from the subframe here to the rotor right here. That way it should I shouldn't have to do a whole lot of adjusting. I'm pretty decent at getting the toe set in the driveway, but if I can get it set up to where I don't have to have the car down on the tires and reach up here and start tweaking the tie rods, that would be great. So I'm going to measure on each side. I'm going to measure from a reference point, probably this subframe right here, over here to the edge of the rotor, and I'm going to get the toe set exactly where it's at right now. Theoretically, when I lower it, it should be at least set to where it's at now. The tires are relatively new and they don't have any wear on them, so that tells me that the alignment should be good. But anyway, the next step, I'm going to get a wrench. I'm going to break these jam nuts loose just enough to where once I get the tie rod popped up out of here, I can unscrew those and count how many turns it takes. Anyway, let me get to that point and I'll film it. Okay guys, 22 millimeter for the jam nut. Now usually one side is reverse threaded and one side's not, so I don't know which way this one's going to go. There we go. All right, and then 18 millimeter for the nut for the tie rod. And then just a couple taps. Hopefully actually this has got the little hex protrusion on the bottom, so I'm just going to hit straight up on the ball joint. We are going to reuse these ball joints. And I just realized I was calling this a ball joint. That's the tie rod. Okay. Now, when you count these, remember, one turn. So this is pointing straight down. One turn is that right there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, so about 12. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Not going to show it because it's going to be the same thing. And I just realized I did not measure from here. So I have not moved the rotor, so I'm going to measure that right now. $16 3/4. in 12 turns. And I just put a note right here. All right, on to the next side. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use this evacuator, and I'm going to go ahead and suck out as much fluid as I can. That way when I break those lines loose, there'll be just as minimal fluid losses, or fluid drippage, rather. Okay, I'm going to be lowering the subframe to get access to this rack. And the first thing you want to do before you do that is just take a look up here and make sure you've got room. Make sure nothing's already real close to the firewall. It looks like the alternator is going to be the closest thing, so we're going to have to keep an eye on that. So when I lower this subframe, you know, this whole engine's going to tilt toward the firewall. And I want to make sure I'm not going to start contacting anything like the alternator to the firewall. So take a look at that, make sure you got plenty of room, and then we'll get a jack underneath the subframe and I'll zip the bolts out. Okay, so I've got this bolt completely out. That one I've not even loosened yet. And what my plan is I want to put this jack only on this side. That way it's out of my way as much as possible. And I'm pretty sure that subframe will be rigid enough to where I can just lower this side and have plenty of room to work underneath the car. So I've got some pressure on the subframe right now with the jack. We're going to go over to the other side. I'm going to zip that bolt out and we'll see how this works. Actually, let me even this. I'm going to, there we go. All right. You ever done one of those jobs that you wish you would have turned down? Well, that's exactly where I'm at right now. All right, let me go lower that subframe. Get over here. If you hear anything crunching or cracking, stop. See where we're at up top here. Oh yeah, we got all kinds of room. I'm gonna go a little bit more. And what that does, as you can see, is that really opens everything up to where you can get to it a lot easier. I'm trying to do this without taking that sway bar off, but I don't know if I can get my impact on the bolts. As long as I can get my impact on the bolts to the rack and pinion, then we'll be good to go. All right. I probably should have done this first, but notice how that boot is pulled up? That's from me lowering the subframe. Now, that is a telescoping shaft. I believe that intermediate shaft. So hopefully it didn't cause any problems. I'm going to zip that bolt out and we'll see how that goes. So let me get my impact. I'm going to get the camera set up so you can watch, and we'll go from there. All right, hopefully you've got a good shot of that. And I'm just using a long extension, and apparently this is an 11 millimeter. At least that's what fits it the best. Okay, so there's that bolt. Just going to take a pry bar and see if I can push that up off there. Got to be careful with that plastic right there. Okay, so there's that. Now it's just a matter of the lines and the two main mounting bolts, and I think we'll be ready to pull this thing out of there. All right, guys, hopefully you're going to be able to see this. I'm getting ready to go underneath the car. And what I mean by see, what I mean is that it's not too dark. Looked like it was 18 millimeter. And it does look like I should be able to get on it without taking the sway bar loose. All right. Now I'm not going to film this other side, but it looks like, wait a minute. Yeah, I'm able to get on it also. But can I get the bolt out? Oh, that was real smart of GM. I can't get the bolt all the way out of this side. Driver's side, there was room. This side doesn't look like there is. So what I'm going to try to do, I don't know if there's enough give in those bushings to where if I get a pry bar and pry down on it, if that bolt to come out. If not, I'll just have to take those bolts out for the sway bar bushing so that I can lift up on it. So let me get that done. And as far as the lines go, there's the lines right there. You can get to those from the top. It looks like I can get to them from the bottom too, so it doesn't look like it's going to be too much of a hassle, but we'll see. Let me get this bolt out. All right, guys, so on the driver's side, I was able to just take these two bolts out for the bushings using my 3/8 cordless ratchet, and I was able to pry up. Since I got the mount bolt for the rack out on the driver's side with no problem, I was able to pry up on the rack a little bit and get these two bolts out. Now, people laugh at me a lot of times why I like my 1/4 inch tools so much. This is one of those cases. Look how much bigger the 3/8 head is versus the 1/4 inch. I don't want to have to move the rack. I could move the rack in so I could access that bolt with my ratchet. Now I could wrench that off if I wanted to also, but I'd rather use a power tool. But I can't get the 3/8 it's just too big. 3/8 is too big to get on there, and once I start running the bolt out, it's going to start running up into the bellows. But my 1/4 inch, I'm able to get right on it. And then it's going to have plenty of room whenever I start running that bolt up. So let me get this last bolt out, and that's going to allow me to push up on this sway bar so that I can pull the mounting bolt out right there. I was just wanting to see if that washer would actually screw up on the threaded part, and then I could go ahead and get that out, but it doesn't look like it will. If GM would have just made that washer to where it would have fit over the threads, or a flat spot in the washer, it would have been perfect. Anyway, let me get this bolt out real quick. About 10 seconds later, bolt's out. All right, so that should allow me to push up on that rack, or the sway bar. So let's climb up underneath there. See how this goes. Got the old trusty pry bar. I've got to find a prying point, but the you can see how that will go up. Hopefully it will go up high enough to where I can get it out. I just got to find a prying point. All right, guys, I was able to get right up underneath the rack and the subframe and get on the back side of this sway bar, and I got it up enough to where that bolt came out. All right, so now the only thing that's left are the lines, and then this rack ought to be able to slide out of here. There's some I think these that one stays on the rack. That one's already unclipped. There's some clips that you might have to undo. This one's already, it was already unclipped. There's probably another one. I gotta look, but I gotta get the, let me get a wrench, and I'm gonna see what the easiest way to get those lines off, and I'll turn the camera back on. All right, guys, so you're able to get to these from the top or the bottom. Since I've got the subframe lowered, it's actually closer to me now on the bottom. And what I'm using is a flare wrench, 18 millimeter, got a slight angle, and right now I'm on the bottom one, and I'm able to get on it, and I was able to loosen it right off, no problem. So this is probably going to be a little messy, so I've got my catch pan. I'm going to roll it over here after I move everything. I'm going to finish loosening that off by hand. I'm going to let it drain in this pan, and then I'll get that top B-nut loose. And then after that, this rack should be sliding out of there. So I'm going to need both hands, so unfortunately I'm not going to be able to film this. But anyway, that's the way I did it. All right, guys, you're going to definitely want to get you a flare wrench. This is 18 millimeter. That's what size both those B-nuts were. Now, once I broke them loose, you know, this is a 6-point, so you don't have a lot of options to get on it. Once I got them broke loose with this, I don't have an 18 millimeter short, but 3/4 was big enough to where I could get on it. And if there was times that the nut would kind of bind up a little bit, and I had to have that extra little bit of leverage because I couldn't spin it off with my fingers, and this short little 3/4 came in. So I'd get an 18 millimeter short also. Anyway, I think we're ready to start fishing this rack out of here. So let me get a light, kind of double check everything, and then I'll set the camera up, and we'll film pulling this thing out. There's no real good place for the camera to where it's not going to be in my way. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pry bar, and I'm just going to make sure that that's free on this side. I'm going to go over there on the other side, and I'm going to pry up on that end to get it up out of its cradle, and then I'm going to try to pull it out this way. Okay. Now, I think this heat shield, there we go. Yeah, the heat shield kind of gets hung up. All right, so she's out. So far, I've probably been on it an hour, 45 minutes maybe, 45 minutes to an hour, and it's out. So I'm going to carry it over there to the other new rack. I'm going to set it down, and then I'll turn the camera on, show you that. Okay. Obviously, you want to make sure that the racks look exactly the same. But the other thing you want to do is turn the new one to where the ends of the inner tie rods are the same as they were. That way, you know, you've got the wheel, basically the steering wheel, in its correct place. Let me get vice grip. Actually, this side looks pretty darn close. This side's coming up just a little bit short. Okay, that's about the best we're going to get it. Actually, hold on a minute. Yeah, that's where it's going to have to be. That's probably, I didn't have that lined up just perfect. That side's even, and this side's even. Other than swapping the other than swapping this heat shield over, it's ready to start going back in. Okay, there we go. All right. Next step is throwing it back in the car. Easy peasy, right? To give you an idea of what this looks like without the steering gear in it, the rack. All right, you may kind of be in my way, so I might be bumping you, but we'll see. So close, yet so far. So the passenger side fell down into its little groove, but for some reason, this side's not wanting to, and I can't tell exactly why. It's trying. Okay, hold on. Okay. So that flange was just kind of pinched just a little bit, probably from the old one being bolted up to where it wasn't able to fall down into its slot. A little bit of persuasion with the pry bar fixed that. Okay, so I think we've got it dropped down. I don't know if it's not enough yet, but it will be sooner or later, hopefully. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So this is the point where I was talking about. Should I? Yeah, I guess I'm going to have to lift the, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and put the bolts in for the rack. I'll get the lines hooked up, and then the coupling right here will be the last thing, and I'll just slowly lift the subframe up as I'm guiding this on. Be a good idea to put new O-rings on these. You could probably reuse the ones that is on it. They didn't look too bad, but I've got an O-ring kit. Unfortunately, this rack did not come with new O-rings, so you're either going to have to have your own O-rings or reuse the original. So all I'm going to do now, I'm going to put these O-rings on, take those little caps off there. I'm going to finish hooking these lines up, and then we're going to stab the bolts in the rack, and then at that point start lifting the subframe up so that we can hook up the coupler for the steering shaft. So let me get these lines hooked up. All right, guys, so I got both lines are hooked up. Next step is to stab this bolt right here. Looks like we're actually, it looks like we're a little off. That ain't gonna work. Hold on a minute. Let me get set up here. me get a tapping device. And what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to try to put this other side in real quick. Just because it's kind of more accessible. Or is it? Just hate that. The driver's side is in. Actually, looks like it might go. This side's in. All right. Fair enough. All right, lines are hooked up, mounting bolts are in. Clip the lines in the little plastic holder. I'm going to go ahead and bolt the sway bar bushings back down, and then we'll get the coupler hooked up. Thought I'd just show, hopefully you're seeing this. I thought I'd just show bolting the sway bar back down. Funny tight. Okay. Now we just got to slowly kind of lift the, not even in view, okay. I'm just going to slowly lift the subframe up, and then I'm going to come over and start trying to get that lined up, and then I'll lift it up a little bit at a time until that slides down on there where it needs to be. Then we'll get the bolt in, and then we'll finish lifting the rest of the subframe up. So let me get you mounted up here somewhere. I think right now, yeah, we need to come up with the subframe just a little bit. And where's the light at? Need my light. Where's my light? What do we need to do here? Let me come back down a little bit. Trying not to fight this too much. Okay. Get a bigger pry bar. I think once we get it over center, then it'll slide right on. It's looking pretty close. Let me go up with it just a little bit more. think that might be it. Okay. All right, guys. So that was the toughest part, is getting that coupler hooked up. And I'm going to come back later on and I'm going to torque that up. And I'll put the torque specs in the description. The tie rods are easy. 12 turns on this side, and then once we get them stabbed down in the hole, we're going to measure and see if we got 16 3/4. Okay, we'll call that half. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right there. The steering wheel should still be straight because it's locked. Tape measure. Now, I don't have the subframe bolted up yet, but that's coming. Okay, so we're sitting at about 16 and 5/16, 16 3/8. So we're gonna have to come out just a little bit, but first I want to get that other side hooked up. Actually, I think I'm going to go ahead and bolt the subframe up. So let's get that done. All right, so subframe's about as easy as it gets. I'll come back and torque these subframe bolts. I'll put the torques in the description. I'm going to lower the jack, put that bolt in over there, and then we'll start adjusting out the tie rods as close as we can get them. All right, guys, so I've got these tie rods adjusted to where, from the subframe where I was measuring to the rotor is 16 3/4. And I've got the other side set. I've got these nuts torqued. I've got the jam nuts snugged up because there's a good chance that once I drive it and I pull it up in the driveway, I'm going to have to tweak one side or the other to get the steering wheel straight. And just so you know, you really need to get an alignment done. I'm going to try to get the toe set the best I can. If I'm happy with it, I'll monitor the tire wear. And if it drives straight and there's no tire wear, we'll go with it. If the tires seem to start wearing a little bit, or I just can't get the steering wheel straight, then I'm going to have this car aligned. But now, the only thing that's left is dumping some fluid in it and bleeding it out. And then I'm going to lay the tools out so you can see everything that I used for this job. So far, I've probably spent about 2 hours total on it. The toughest part was the coupler right there. Getting that all lined up and pushed back up in there. But I mean, it wasn't too bad. I just had to lift and lower the subframe a couple times to finally get it lined up to where it finally fit up in there. Anyway, let me get the fluid set up and we're going to get this thing bled out and going. All right, guys, so I just topped the reservoir off, started the car up. It instantly sucked down to the low level. I went ahead and topped it off again. It's down a little bit lower than the neck. I have not turned the wheels at all, so let's go ahead and we'll cycle the steering wheel back and forth. I've still got it up on jack stands. That was all the way to the right stop, all the way to the left stop. Back to neutral. You can see it's kind of foamy. And I'm just going to let it run while I get everything bolted up. I'm going to go ahead and bolt the tires on, empty out my waste bucket. And eventually that growling will stop. The power steering will get quieter and quieter. And in maybe 10 minutes or so, should be pretty much completely quiet. And then I'm going to drive it up and down the street, pull it back up in the driveway, make sure the steering wheel's centered. If it's not, I'm going to do what I call an eyeball toe adjustment, and I can generally get pretty close in the driveway on getting the toe set. Now, so I'm going to look at the specs real quick just to see what the specs are on this vehicle, and that'll give me a good idea of how close I need to get the toe set. I'm going to finish bolting these tires on and topping off the power steering and press on. All right, guys, so the power steering has quietened down, it's topped off, and here's all the tools I used. A couple hammers, vice grip, tape measure, 3/8 impact socket set, 18mm swivel socket, 22mm, 18mm, 18mm flare nut. Now this 3/4 short needs to be an 18, but I didn't have an 18. Could have got by with my 1/4 inch air ratchet, cordless ratchet. I ended up using both, but you could probably get by with either one. I prefer my 1/4 inch. Got my 3/8 DEWALT impact. Love this thing. All this is 12 volt. I don't care for that 18 or 20 volt, whatever it is. Got my Nebo light. 2 different pry bars. Long 3/8 extension. I think that's an 11mm. Couple jack stands, floor jack, drain pan. What else? Jack stands, floor jack, drain pan. Yeah, that's about it. Anyway, I'm gonna take this thing for a test drive. All right, guys, I just got finished driving the car. Steering wheel is completely straight. I was actually expecting to have to tweak the alignment, but I'm gonna try to show you what I'm talking about to get your alignment close. If you look right down, and I'm not going to really be able to do this through the viewfinder of the camera, so I'm just going to shuttle the camera from side to side, and you can kind of see that rear tire, I hope. And as I come over, right when the inboard, the front and rear sides of the inboard front tire, hopefully that made sense, it's lined right up with the rear tire. And you want that even on both sides. If you see a bunch of rear tire, like if you looked at the forward and rear edge of the front tire and you actually saw like 2 inches of the rear tire, that means you've got toe in on the front tires. If you don't see any rear tire whenever the front edges are lined up, that means you've got toe out. If it's lined right up, kind of like this car is, you've got pretty much right on the money, 0 degrees of toe. So I'm actually going to go look and see what the specs are. I forgot to do that earlier. But I'm probably going to leave this alignment just the way it is and have the owner of this car just check her tires periodically. If they feel like they're wearing uneven, then I'm going to have her take it in for an alignment. Or I'm going to recommend her do that anyway. Anyway, we're done. This is a rack and pinion on a Malibu. Impala. Pretty much the same thing as a Malibu. Anyway, you guys take care. We'll see you in the next one.